want to go ahead and say that if you experience any kind of antagonism from anyone in this march or in this rally, you need to not engage. Do not make it worse. Come tell one of us. We can try to handle it, but we do not tolerate any kind of antagonistic behavior or abuse. Also, if you want to take pictures, make sure you get everyone's consent. Okay, without further ado, we will have Lucia Wade come up and speak for us. Like this, or just, okay.
Yes, go ahead. Well, many people know who I am. My name is Lucia Wade. I am director of Brave Space Alliance. I am also an organizer with Trans Liberation Collective, as well as BTGNC Collective. What's up? As well as BLM. I fucks with everyone that fucks with this system. So I'm gonna start it off. It's gonna be brief and sweet. You know, we have the, beach party that's happening right now. But I do want to start off with the prophet, as we all know, Cardi B. The only time I hold my tongue is when I suck a dick, and I want to be realization of that. I've always spoken my truth. There are many things that I cannot control in this world. Ableism, queerphobia, transphobia, racism, classism, misogyny, and misogynoir. I wonder every day if I have done many different things in my life. What if I did not transition? What if I was not queer? Will I have a normal cis hetero life, which is boring as we all know? Will I have my sisters back in my life? Will I not be raped? Will I have not been raped? Not shamed for my body in all of its glory. I do want to say what I do control is how I burn this fascist, imperialistic, communist, capitalist country down. I promise myself that I will always collect all the resources for what's mine. Meaning my misfits, the ones that refuse to live in this brutal, racist country, capitalist, imperialistic, as we all know that it is. The ones that want to live in a free society with free Medicaid, abolition, and defunding the police, as we already know. Yep. So I also want to leave with this. As a Black, queer, trans woman that is Afro, Puerto Rican, and indigenous as well, I say fuck what we've been going through. Fuck this system. Fuck these police officers. Fuck it all. I'm in a point that I refuse, and I'm ready. Whenever someone got gasoline, I have the lighter. But I do want you to leave here today and saying, before you leave this space, take something with you. Take a phone number, hold yourself accountable, hold the person next to you accountable. Take emails, start networking, just stand with your sisters, brothers, and siblings. And if they're ready with the gasoline and you need a lighter, I have 20 in my truck. Just call me. So leave this space with some information, network, and take your politics from this space to other spaces to hold them accountable. That's it.
Thank you so much, Lucia. Amazing. Our next speaker is part of the Black and Brown Punk Show Collective, Shana Collins. Woo! Where's Shana? Woo! Yeah! Woo! Okay, we gotta hold it like this, not like that.
Like this? Okay. All right. I'm Shana Collins. What the fuck is really good? I organize with Black and Brown Punk Collective, and I'm here to basically talk about Black women and sexual assault, especially in our organizations, in our communities, and with the prison abolition context. So I'll make it quick. So y'all want to know what I'm tired of? Joining social organizations dealing with opposing the state and having to worry about if there's someone in that organization who deliberately prey on Black women, who pretend to be down for Black women only to be exposed later as someone who manipulated our trust and Black feminist language in order to abuse us and commit sexual violence against us. It is because of that reason I stayed away primarily from social organizations, even though I didn't want to. I didn't feel safe anymore. I didn't know if my needs and concerns would be taken seriously if I was a victim. So I'm tired of black women not being able to be safe. We endure a high amount of sexual harassment, sexual assault, and abuse, not only because our bodies and our personal agency is taken as a fucking joke, but also because we have limited access to support resources, institutions, and we are more exposed to poverty, especially poor black trans women. 60% of black women are sexually abused before they turn 18. I can count on more than one hand the number of black women who have confided in me that they were sexually assaulted before adolescence. We lead movements, but do people really care about our safety and having our backs? While you talk cliche shit about black women saving everybody, we're out here trying to save our fucking selves from violence inflicted on us in our communities and by the state.
That's right. That's right.
It's up to collectives to center black women and other women of color in the fight to end rape culture.
That's right.
We are most uniquely at risk. This means an end to coddling our abusers who continue to take up space in our movements. It means fighting for an end to capitalist exploitation that keeps black women isolated in situations where we are more likely to experience sexual violence. It means not relying on pigs and the prison system to hold abusers and rapists accountable.
That's right. That's right.
These fucking pigs are notorious for being perpetrators of sexual violence towards black women, black trans women, and black gender nonconforming people. The prison system is an institution of violence that does not undo rape culture in regards to us. So I ask you, how are you creating safe spaces for black women? White women, how are you stopping rape culture from hurting black women? How are you providing resources, spaces for our safety? It isn't enough to yell black girl magic. You have to do the work. That means fighting for us the way we fucking fight for you. That's radical love with teeth to it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, that was awesome. Super awesome. All right, the next speaker we have is very well known in the Chicago area, Thayer. Yes, we need people to back up so our speakers can get here.
We need some room, folks. We need some room. Back up. Back up.
Thayer is part of the Gay Liberation Network, and here they are to talk about what they want to talk about.
Thank you. As many may know, I'm with the Gay Liberation Network. And one of the reasons why we partnered with SlutWalk a few years back was that you weren't a single issue movement. You were not just against gender-based violence, but frankly against all violence. And this is particularly important living here in the United States.
That's right.
Dr. King said back in the day, we live in the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today. And with drone bombings happening in more than a half dozen countries right now, and of course the recent threat of nuclear war against Korea, whatever you think about that regime, that was not abnormal, by the way. The only thing that was abnormal about that particular threat coming from a United States president's post-1945 was that it was communicated on Twitter as opposed to in back channels. Because if you look at virtually every single president since 1945, they have threatened nuclear war, first strike against any number of other countries, okay? So as horrible as the last few days have seemed to some of us, the threat of attack and invasion of Venezuela, this, in so many respects, was not abnormal. It's been bipartisan violence. And so we're very proud that SlutWalk has partnered against all kinds of violence. Now, this would be an issue for us here in the United States if for no other reason that this country is responsible for almost half of the world's military spending. And I know that there's been a controversy about the issue of Palestine and Israel, and I'd like to say a few words about why the Gay Liberation Network has proudly stood up for Palestinian freedom with our... But we got a particular take on it that I think probably a lot of people have not heard. First of all, we live in a country that gives 3/4 of its military aid to just 2 nations. First one being Israel, the second being Egypt, and this is no accident because both of them surround Gaza. 3/4 of U.S. military aid go to Egypt and Israel. And Israel spends more, it gets more than twice as much military aid as Egypt. And every other country is far beyond that. Okay? And so we have a particular responsibility in this country not only to speak up against militarism in general, but also the oppression of Palestinians in their own land. Now, Israel is referred to often as a Jewish nation by its supporters, as a Jewish democracy. And let's just take that at its face value. Yet, some people over there apparently have got some problem with free speech, but okay. We in the Gay Liberation Network have proudly spoken out for almost 2 decades now against attempts of the Christian right to turn this country into a Christian nation, into a Christian democracy, for the very simple reason that you cannot be in favor of so-called Christian democracy without leaving everyone who is not Christian out. And by many of these bigoted Christians' definition of Christianity, they leave most Christians out, including LGBTQs who happen to be Christian. So we have long opposed any attempt to turn this country into a so-called Christian democracy or Christian nation for very good reason. And what's good for the goose is good for the gander. You cannot have a democracy where you are defining it by ethnic or religious standards. You cannot have a white democracy, though arguably that's what we've had in this country for so many damn years. We live in the biggest recipient of U.S. military aid by far is also a nation which was polled recently. It's Jewish citizens who found that 48% of them supported so-called transfer. Transfer of Palestinians from Israel. Okay? That's a polite term for ethnic cleansing. It's a polite term for ethnic cleansing. That is how poisonous the situation in Israel has gotten. And I'm gonna finish up with this because I've been up here for a little bit. And I think it's no accident that many members of the Christian right in this country now count themselves as amongst the biggest Zionist supporters, or Zionists per se, because they favor an ethno-religious state here in the United States for white people, not for people of color, the same way that we are now finding out many of us, many Jewish people in Israel, unfortunately support. You cannot have a democracy which is limited to one race and one religion. It is an oxymoron. And so we are proud to partner with SlutWalk this year for taking a proud stand against all forms of violence, including the daily violence the Palestinians face in Gaza, the West Bank, and indeed in quote-unquote Israel proper today. So thank you, SlutWalk, for taking a very courageous stance. I know you've taken a lot of BS, and that's to put it mildly, including from some of our friends right here today. So keep it up. They are losing. This is why they're so desperate to disrupt events like this and Dyke March, because they know they are losing the younger generation, not just of people in the United States in general, but young Jews overwhelmingly are not supporting the Zionist project, and more power to them, and more power to groups like Jewish Voice for Peace who have been fighting this fight for a lot longer than most of us here.
All right, thank you. Again, we will not tolerate any other antagonistic behavior. And I'm going to invite our next speaker up, Phoenix Kalina, if you could come up. All right, awesome. All right, hold it like this. Stand it like this.
Hello.
Hi.
How is everybody?
Good.
Oh, y'all look so fantastic. I love it. Bold, brave, beautiful. Give yourselves a round of applause, please, for showing up. All right. A little closer. Can everybody hear me now? Yeah? All right. I am here today because I want to remind everybody of the importance of not only SlutWalk, the importance of recognizing trauma, the importance of building communities, but including women of color and sex workers in those communities. All right? Okay? What we have done is create a community from our pain. We have created a system that allows us to thrive under the harshest of conditions. We have survived police brutality. We have survived racism. We have survived bigotry. We have survived coming up in the hood. And we are here and we're not shutting up, okay? Can we talk about that? We are not defined by our trauma. We are defined by our ability to survive and thrive under it. That is who we are. That is what we do. We're people who bend, but we will not break. We speak even when we're afraid, and we are everything that the establishment fears. But the best part, we earned that reputation. They should be fucking scared of us. Because we come to events like this and we stand our ground. We stay in these streets and we do the work. We will not be silenced and we will not be stopped. Okay? Now, what I want y'all to remember is without sex workers, we are nowhere. We are nowhere. Okay? It is sex workers who are in these streets taking the brunt of abuse from police, from patriarchal standards, misogyny, transphobia. It is always sex workers at the bottom of that. And if we help sex workers, everybody benefits. There is nothing that we can do to help a sex worker that will hurt anybody else. Y'all want to end those fucking patriarchy bullshit? Help a sex worker. You want to stop sexism? Help a sex worker. Okay? You want to end rape culture? Help a sex worker. All right? It is these sex workers in the streets who are always down. If you need someone to have your back, talk to a sex worker. If you need advice, talk to a sex worker. You want someone to throw down in these streets with you? Get a sex worker, okay? That's what the fuck we do, and that is who the fuck we are. We cannot take a group as strong as us to think that we will be silent or to think that we will fail. Failure is not an option for us. That's not what we came out here to do. And I know that y'all are with me, so y'all are gonna stay in these streets defending women of color, defending sex workers, right? Defending our trans folks, defending non-binary folks, defending femmes, defending non-men, those who are poor, those who are disabled. That is what we do. Everybody's down, right? All right. And that is how you build a community. That is how you make change. When the roots are strong, when your foundation is strong, you cannot be stopped. And we are the roots, we are the foundation, and we gonna fucking bring it, y'all.
That was great. Loved it. Just want to add one thing. As a sex worker, we should not be ever experiencing any kind of abuse or hatred towards our fellow sex workers either, should we?
No!
Fabulous.
No!
I'm going to call up the next speaker, Kelly from SlutWalk in Brazil. Hold it like this. I'll watch your steps.
Hello. Okay. Well, from Brazil, you guys must know that as a Brazilian woman, there's a lot of stereotype, right? we are not ready for sex. You know, I wrote something because my English is not really good, so let's try. But oh god, it's so beautiful. This is our flag. I'm from a city called Curitiba. In Brazil, we don't have a unified movement over there. Just like here, each city has their own. I want to thank you all, the SlutWalk organizing team, because the girls, you know, they have me here and they haven't taken care of me. So thanks a lot. Well, I prepared some notes that go from global and local and personal. I will share some thoughts about my personal experience researching and attending SlutWalk in Brazil since 2014. Performed in so many different contexts on a global level, SlutWalks brought into public space the tensions and unsolved questions that surround the woman's body. Harassment, domestic violence, rape culture, abortion, sexuality, prostitution, pornography, non-normative gender identities, etc. At the same time, SlutWalks reveal tensions and unsolved questions among feminists. As an example, could we imagine that in 2017 we will still be debating about nudity and the impacts of the word slut from inside feminism? Come on. Well, SlutWalks have been well succeeding share a transnational repertoire of action and meanings using speeches, signs, performance, and an important instrument of resistance, the woman's body. SlutWalk demonstrations present a powerful metaphor of freedom.
Respect the speaker! Back up and respect the speaker! Be back up and respect the speaker!
Yeah, respect the speaker. Thank you. In the last years, SlutWalks have embraced the intersectional aspect. After intense debates, different identities and oppressions are now reinforced and valorized. But if you look around, here or in Brazil, how intersectional SlutWalk really is. In most of the cities, the walk collapses in discussions about intersectionality or about the name. So, thinking about Brazil and Curitiba, I wonder, what has been the impact of SlutWalk? Well, Curitiba is the largest city in Brazil's South region, but even so is really conservative. Violence against women is one of the highest in the country. SlutWalk Curitiba has been performed since the first year, 2011. Well, in an incredibly conservative environment, SlutWalk was able to denounce the urgency of femicide. Pay attention to the statistics. The statistics speak for themselves. Every hour and a half, one Brazilian woman dies a victim of gender violence. Every hour and a half. Most of these deaths result of domestic violence. There's no safety even inside their homes. In another negative aspect, there is a lot of intolerance and violence against LGBTQ people. Brazil is the #1 country in trans people homicide. Brazilian trans women have been tortured and killed with cruelty. In this context, SlutWalk also denounces how the recent political crisis is threatening rights already established. Led by an evangelical and Catholic group, some negative reforms were approved to interfere with same-sex marriage, medical care for rape victims, the teaching of gender in public schools, and delaying discussions about legalized abortion. The recent coup not only removed a president woman from a power position, but declares loud and clear where other Brazilian women should remain. Well, Mr. Not My President, our place is fighting back in the streets.
That's right!
Don't you know that we are survivors? So, we respond loud and clear. Fora Temer, get out of our way.
That's right!
After 6 years of SlutWalk in Curitiba and other cities, it is true that the number of those who attend the walk are decreasing. But at the same time, the public has become younger, giving a lot of hope in the future. finish. We've been experiencing so many local initiatives that stand for women's and girls' rights. There's a lot of women and girls fighting out there right now, and that is beautiful. What I've learned from Brazilian slut walkers is that most of them have a personal experience of violence that reflects our oppressive and male-dominant culture. Along the walk, they experience a catharsis that brings all the negative memories and releases them. Also, they enjoy the community and caring spirit that is built, changing how they see other women, not as rivals, but as allies. And all of this are lived through the body. This would be enough to show how relevant slut walks are, besides the political aspect. Well, we all know that different things empowered different women. I don't know the statistics from where you live. I don't know your story, and I don't even know your name. I don't know your privilege or struggles. But we are here today, connected in so many ways. And I want to believe that all of us, Latinas, American, Black, Indian, Asian, Native, LGBTQ women, etc., we are not bonded by violence. We are bonded by hope. Thank you.
Thank you, that was fucking awesome. I'm so glad you made it. Okay, I have gotten word that our next two speakers might not be here yet. Oh, you're good? So Layla and, oh, I'm sorry. Okay, before we get to them, we will have Scout from Jewish Voice for Peace speak for us. This, like this, right on. Hello, SlutWalk!
Hi, my name is Scout, and I am proud to be here as a representative of Jewish Voice for Peace. Right on. I'm honored to share this speaking microphone, this loudspeaker, with fearless feminists, a group of anti-racist advocates for justice, with fellow queers and defenders of sex positivity. I am here to express my values of self-determination and self-expression, my dedication to ensuring that no matter someone's gender identity, sexuality, they can express themselves freely. Moving freely not just through the streets of Chicago and our world, but through the institutions of healthcare and education.
That's right.
The same motivations that bring me to SlutWalk Chicago today are the ones that bring me to the work of advocating for Palestinian human rights as a Jew and as an American. To move confidently, loudly, proudly, sexually throughout Chicago requires me to think about the ways other people's freedom of movement is restricted. Both in Chicago, across the world, in Israel and in Palestine, where others' movement and freedom of expression is restricted with my tax dollars and in the name of my Jewish people. As a Jew, as a feminist, a queer, sex-educating, sex-positive Jew, I have the undeniable responsibility to speak out against the racist and sexist oppression of the occupation. I am here today to fight for Palestinian human rights and to say the struggle for Palestinian human rights is a feminist issue and a reproductive justice issue. Today is a day for us to shout loudly, proudly, enthusiastically, we will not be silent! You cannot quiet us! We deserve to move through the world as powerful, untethered bodies. We will not back down. We will not stay silent. We will not stay small. And we must use our voices and our bodies to fight for the freedom of movement and expression for Palestinians. I am here to say that my self-determination cannot be at the expense of others. Neither in Chicago, neither in Palestine, not here, not there, not anywhere.
Thank you so much! I love the energy. Yeah, one more time! Yes, let's keep this going. So our two Palestinian folks who are going to be speaking will be Layla and Thayer. Are they here? Okay. Okay, they are almost here. So we'll put that aside for now and welcome Red, representative for Support Hose. Gonna speak about our girl Alicia Walker.
Before I do that, I'm going to ask y'all to do me a favor. Oh, you're beautiful. You're such beautiful, beautiful people out here. Thank you for standing in the sun, standing for resistance. Thank you for being here at SlutWalk Chicago. Can y'all do me a favor? Can we take a couple steps back? Can we take up more space? That's what we're doing today. We are taking up our space in our city, okay? That's what we're doing. That's what SlutWalk always does. And if you feel so moved, you can link arms with the people next to you. You can create a strong presence. You can stand shoulder to shoulder and make sure that, you know, if something is making you uncomfortable, that you let an organizer know. I've had to do that. I've had to check in with the organizers so far today. But if something's making you uncomfortable, let someone know. Stand together, okay? Create a strong presence. And if anyone starts shouting at you, turn your back to them and recenter, refocus, and shout louder for the people who are up here taking a stand against rape culture. So like one of the organizers said, my name's Red. I work with Support Hose Chicago. Yeah, oh, some of y'all know us, hey. I'm also a queer, non-binary femme, a sex worker, and a student here in Chicago. Yes, thank you. I primarily organize with a small collective that seeks to build radical community for sex workers and our accomplices right here in this city, and actively campaigns for the decriminalization of our sex working labor. Now, central to our organizing is our demand for the immediate release of our fellow sex worker and fellow collective member, Alicia Walker. How many of y'all know about Alicia Walker? We want her free from Decatur Correctional. She is being punished for defending herself against a violent client. She is being punished for surviving. Alicia is a fierce and beautiful person whose only crime against this racist, sexist society is being a black queer woman and a sex worker. Alicia is being made an example of by the courts and by the state of Illinois. When they sentenced her to 15 years for defending herself, they effectively said that her life didn't matter as much as the well-connected white man who attacked her. She's dealing with harassment and further arbitrary punishment right now in Decatur Correctional Center. All because she refused to be disposable. Because she fought for her life. Just this morning, we learned that Layla has been degraded. How many of y'all have loved ones who are locked up? Y'all have loved ones who are locked up? Me too, me too. Now y'all know what degraded is, but for y'all who don't have folks on the inside, this means she has no access to gym or yard, which means she can't see sunlight. It means she can only make 2 phone calls over the next 30 days, and she can no longer electronically write to friends and family, and her commissary spending has been reduced to $1 a day. Okay, that means she has to choose between snacks that are edible, soap, or stamps. That's what that means. The reason for this new punishment, because they had put her in segregation for 5 days after she named her harassers in a phone call to her mother. So after punishing her, putting her in segregation, they're punishing her again with degrading. We demand this punishment cease immediately. Access to commissary and correspondence with loved ones is essential to people's mental health and survival while inside. Her incarceration is another manifestation of rape culture, racism, and whorephobia. Rape culture, misogyny, and whorephobia, coupled with the criminalization of sex work, create a toxic, stigma-fueled society that breeds violence and aggression toward women, femmes, and gender non-conforming folks. This directly contributes to slut-shaming and victim-blaming. That is why it is so essential to lift up and center sex working people's voices in anti-gender-based violence movements like SlutWalk. Y'all, we're not going to get free until sex workers are free from targeted police attacks, free from criminalization, and free from client violence. Like so many of the speakers who have gotten up here before me and said this toxic society must be shut down. This rape culture has got to be shut down. This bigoted, misogynistic society that is hell-bent on perpetuating violence, like some of the people who are gathered here today are, must be shut down. Resistance. We've heard that word a lot in the wake of Trump, right? We've heard the word resistance a lot. But that means putting our bodies on the line when trans folks, folks of color, prisoners, and sex workers need us too. The way that they've been putting their bodies on the line for decades at the forefront of justice movements. We need to support women like Alicia Walker. Will you say that with me? We need to support women like Alicia Walker. Will you say with me? We need to support women like Gigi Thomas.
We need to support women like Gigi Thomas.
We need to demand that they be free and demand an end to the incarceration of survivors and sex workers. Free Lily!
Free Lily!
Free Gigi!
Free Gigi!
Free Lily!
Free Lily!
Free Gigi!
Free Gigi!
We need to work, support, love, and demand justice for all hoes now. This is what SlutWalk is about. Don't you let anyone tell you why you're out here. You know why you're out here. You're standing on the right side of history. Thank you for taking a stand. Thank you for centering and lifting up sex workers.
As always, red is fucking perfect. Awesome. Now we are going to welcome Layla and Thayer, our two Palestinian voices. They have made the trouble to get over here. It was not fun. Okay, cool. Do you want to real quick? Okay, this is another organizer for SlutWalk Chicago. She's gonna speak about the masking.
All right, so some of y'all might wonder why I'm masked, and I see a couple of other masks in the crowd. There's been a lot of talking in the news lately about why people mask, and lots of criticisms, most of which are completely unfounded. But it is true that when all you can see of someone's face is their eyes, that can be a little scary and alienating. However, those kids wearing all black with their faces covered on the news, we are your friends. We promise. We are here trying to make a world that is free for everyone. And not everyone always agrees with our tactics. We have a whole bunch of different tactics. Some of them are fun and some of them are a little more aggro. But the world that we're working for is not the world that the people in power want, because they want to keep their power. They want to keep their boots down on our heads. And we say, fuck that.
Fuck that!
Fuck that! Because the ruling classes and the people who protect them, I'm looking at the cops. Those people don't want the world we're working for.
That's right.
And so when we fight for that world, we can experience consequences, whether they be personal consequences on the internet, such as doxing or bullying, which can be hurtful to some people, and doxing can be downright dangerous. But we can also be exposed to state violence if we are recognized elsewhere in our fight. So that is why we mask. We don't mask to alienate ourselves from you. We mask to create one unified, anonymous block, fighting for the free world that we all deserve.
Yeah.
Hi y'all, I'm another organizer with SlutWalk Chicago. Thank you guys for coming out today. And I just wanted to let let y'all know that we have banners for y'all to hold and heads on sticks for y'all to rock. And yeah, of rapists that we want you guys to hold up and to basically stand with us and to say, fuck that, in rape culture. Can I get in rape culture? In rape culture! Thank you guys so much. So please look for those banners behind me when we start walking. And thank you guys so much for coming out. We still have 2 speakers coming up, and I'm gonna hand this to Erica. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Have they come up yet? Do we see them? Samer! Woo-hoo! Okay, all right, cool. Just one more thing. Again, we will not tolerate any antagonistic behavior. I can see it going on behind me. Please stop. Thank you. All right, here we go. This is Layla. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Salam everybody, my name is Layla, and I'm a demographic threat according to the state of Israel. So let's just hop right into it, shall we? No, you cannot be a Zionist and a feminist. If you believe Zionism and feminism are compatible, then you believe feminism has the room to accept the genocide, racism, and displacement of the indigenous people of Palestine from our homeland. Historically, the feminist movement has silenced the voices and struggles of non-white oppressed peoples, but not today. We're at the table now. We're at the table whether you like it or not. And we refuse to allow feminism to be a safe space for any form of hate, including Zionism. And I'm not sorry for that. Before the establishment of the Zionist entity known as Israel, Zionist militia groups roamed Palestine, terrorizing the indigenous population. They employed vicious tactics from rape and sexual assault to genocide in order, this would later be a factor in the Nakba, the mass exodus of Palestinians in 1948 when over 700,000 Palestinians fled their homes to escape Zionist terrorism. Oh, and the members of those Zionist militia groups went on to become Israeli government officials and heroes. Since the beginning of Israel's creation, Zionism has meant violence for Palestinian women. And this still holds true today. We're talking about a government that views the indigenous population as a demographic threat, where Israeli figures call for the rape of Palestinian women to deter resistance, where Jewish women dating Palestinians are viewed as treasonous. And for the concerned neoliberals, who pretend to care about Palestinian women's rights, to co-opt our struggles in order to promote their own agenda. Let's make one thing clear. Our struggles are not rhetorical points. There's nothing more oppressive and harmful to the liberation of Palestinian women, Palestinian queers, than the Zionism and the state of Israel. And if anyone feels uncomfortable with that, those, which in Arabic basically means, I don't give a fuck. My comrade Salmon is going to be speaking later, but we agreed to speak here knowing that once we step down from speaking, that we're going to become very visible targets of hate. Zionist aggression doesn't end in Palestine. It follows Palestinians wherever we go. Just check out the people who are shouting over me behind me. It follows Palestinians wherever we go. In the U.S., Zionist aggression looks like pro-Palestine activists being targeted by the state through anti-BDS laws. Zionist aggression in the U.S. is Palestinians being blacklisted for calling for an end to the U.S.'s sponsorship and funding of Israel's military violence. And I think the most painful aspect is knowing it can also mean being prevented from visiting Palestine and our families back home. We ask you to stand with us. Liberation for all and free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine! 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 Free,
I want to take this umbrella. That was so badass. You have no idea how badass that was. So, that was our last speaker for right now. I don't believe Samer is here yet. However, we are going to get riled up and ready to march. So I hope your energy so with us. Need to bang it out. I'm gonna have one more person just say a few things.
Hi everybody, it's me again, one of your friendly local organizers. So, the things that we march for today are a march against patriarchy, against rape culture, against slut shaming and victim blaming, and all of the things that contribute to that. We've heard about a lot of those things. Obviously, these are worldwide problems, but there are problems here in America, and they're becoming greater. Last night, white men with torches marched through Charlottesville. They were calling for an end to Jewish people. They were probably calling for an end to black people and all other people of color. They were chanting White Lives Matter. They're fascists. And if you thought, oh, it's not so bad, oh, we'll make it through these 4 years, oh no, it's real fucking bad. Today, the right is uniting in Charlottesville. This is a fascist rally, make no mistake about it. And all of this is relevant because fascism is rape culture in a political, just social, economic costume. It is the embodiment of rape culture. And so when we march today, not only are we marching for our own freedom and our own self-determination and the fact that whatever we wear and whatever the fuck we do, wherever we go, nobody's asking for it. And when we march for those things, we also march against fascism by extension. So who's ready to march? Okay. All right. Say it with me. Fuck rape culture.
Fuck rape culture.
Fuck patriarchy.
Fuck patriarchy.
Fuck fascism.
Fuck fascism.
Fuck racism.
Fuck racism.
Fuck whorephobia.
Fuck whorephobia.
Fuck transphobia.
Fuck transphobia.
We stand with survivors.
We stand with survivors.
We stand with sex workers.
We stand with sex workers.
We march with survivors.
We march with survivors.
We march with sex workers.
We march with sex workers.
No means no. It doesn't mean maybe. Don't touch me. I ain't your baby. No means no. It doesn't mean maybe. Don't touch me. I ain't your baby. No means no. It doesn't mean maybe. Don't touch me. I ain't your baby. No means no. It doesn't mean maybe. Don't touch me. I ain't your baby. No means no. It doesn't mean maybe. Don't touch me. I ain't your baby.